The bathroom door was open. The toilet was still running. I stood frozen in the doorway, watching the last swirls of cloudy water disappear. Empty medication boxes littered the floor: Gonal-F, Menopur, Cetrotide. 2 months of hormone injections. 3 canceled cycles worth of saved medications. My last chance at motherhood, spiraling down the sewage system. "Mom!" My voice cracked. "What did you do?" She appeared behind me, wiping her hands on her pants like she'd just finished a distasteful chore. "I had to Delia. Your sister saw them in the refrigerator." She started crying about how unfair it is that she got pregnant so easily. You know how sensitive she is. Sensitive. My younger sister Brooke, pregnant with her 4th child. The same sister who announced each pregnancy at my miscarriage anniversaries. Who complained about morning sickness while I injected myself with hormones that made me violently ill. Who was sensitive. "Those medications cost $15,000, I whispered, falling to my knees, frantically checking the boxes. Maybe she'd missed some. Maybe. Empty. All empty. "Money isn't everything," Dad said from the hallway. "Brooke's mental health during pregnancy is important. Seeing those drugs makes her feel guilty for being fertile. Her feelings matter more than your desperation." Desperation. 7 years of trying. 5 miscarriages. 3 failed IVF cycles. Endometriosis, so severe I'd had 2 surgeries. And now, at 38, with diminished ovarian reserve and 1 last insurance-covered cycle, my final chance was floating in the city sewer system. "I can't get more," I said numbly. "Insurance won't cover another cycle. The pharmacy won't refill without a new prescription. My cycle starts in 2 days." "Then maybe it's a sign," Mom said gently, stepping over the scattered boxes. "Maybe you should accept God's plan. Brooke needs support right now. She's having twins." Twins. Of course she was. I drove home in a daze, my husband Michael's calls going to voicemail. How could I tell him? He'd taken a second job to cover what insurance didn't. We'd eaten ramen for months to save for this cycle. His parents had contributed their retirement savings. The house was dark when I arrived. Michael was working his night shift at the warehouse, the job that was slowly destroying his back, but paid enough to cover IVF expenses. On the kitchen table was a card. "For my brave wife. This is our month. I can feel it." I called the clinic with shaking hands. Dr. Patel's after-hours service patched me through immediately when I said emergency. "They did what?" Her voice was sharp. "Delia, those aren't just expensive medications. They're controlled substances. Flushing them is illegal. It's pharmaceutical waste. It's... Can you help me?" I interrupted. "Is there any way?" "I'm so sorry. Without those exact medications, in those exact doses, we can't proceed. Your protocol was specifically designed for your condition. I can't simply prescribe more. Insurance flags duplicate fills as fraud." I hung up, sat in the dark, thought about the positive pregnancy test I'd had once for 12 beautiful days before it ended like all the others. Thought about the nursery I'd painted and repainted, now an office. Thought about my sister's casual fertility and my parents' casual cruelty. That's when I saw it. Mom's Facebook post from 3 hours ago. "So blessed to support my baby girl through her pregnancy journey. Can't wait to meet my twin grandbabies. Hashtag GrandmaX 6-inch. 6 grandchildren. All from Brooke. None from me." The comments were already flooding in. "Congratulations. How wonderful. What a blessing." I screenshotted everything. Then I started documenting. The empty medication boxes, photographed individually with their lot numbers visible. The receipt from the specialty pharmacy showing the cost. The email from insurance confirming this was my last covered cycle. Dr. Patel's notes about my narrow fertility window. But most importantly, I remembered something my parents had forgotten. Their bathroom had a security camera. They'd installed it after Dad's surgery, worried about him falling. A discreet little device that backed up to the cloud. The same cloud account I'd set up for them because they were too old for technology. I logged in. There it was. Time-stamped. High definition. My mother systematically opening each box, dumping vials into the toilet. My father keeping watch. Even audio of their conversation. "Hurry up, Patricia. She'll be here soon. I'm going as fast as I can. There's so many. Should we save some?" "No." Brooke says even seeing one makes her panic. They all have to go. I downloaded everything. The next morning, I called in sick to work. Not a lie, I was sick. Sick with rage. Sick with grief. sick with the realization that my parents had chosen my sister's comfort over my last chance at motherhood. Michael came home to find me surrounded by papers. They destroyed them, I said simply. All of it. Gone. He held me while I sobbed. Then, when the tears stopped, he said the words that changed everything. They don't get to win this time. See, Michael wasn't just warehouse labor. He had a degree in chemistry, abandoned when the recession hit. He understood exactly what had been flushed. And more importantly, he understood the environmental implications. Those medications contain synthetic hormones, he said slowly. Flushing them introduces endocrine disruptors into the water system. It's a federal crime. Federal crime. I made 3 calls that day. The first was to the EPA's Criminal Enforcement Division. The agent who took my report was horrified. They flushed fertility hormones? Do you have proof? I sent the video. The second call was to Adult Protective Services. My parents were in their 60s, but competent. What they'd done showed such poor judgment, such inability to understand consequences, that perhaps they needed evaluation. The third call was to a lawyer. Not for the destroyed medications, but for something else entirely. For years ago, when I was recovering from my second surgery, my parents had convinced me to add them to my life insurance policy. Just in case, they'd said. Someone should benefit if the worst happens. What they didn't know was that I'd been documenting their treatment for years. Every cruel comment about my infertility. Every time they'd prioritized Brooke. Every holiday ruined by pregnancy announcements timed to hurt me most. And now, the destruction of my medical property. Intentional infliction of emotional distress, my lawyer said. Destruction of property. Pharmaceutical theft. And considering the value and your medical condition, possibly attempted murder. Murder. They knowingly destroyed life-saving medical treatment. For someone with your history, pregnancy might be the difference between future health complications and stability. They endangered your life. The EPA acted first. Hazmat teams at my parents' house. Water system testing. Federal agents in suits asking about pharmaceutical waste disposal. The fine started at $50,000. Then came the criminal charges. Destruction of property over $10,000 was a felony. Add in the controlled substance angle, the environmental crimes, and suddenly my parents were facing serious prison time. Brooke tried to play peacemaker. Called me crying about how stress could harm the twins. Like the stress of having my last chance at motherhood flushed down a toilet? I asked. That's different. I can't help being fertile. And I couldn't help being infertile. But you made it worse. Every single time. She hung up. The trial was a media sensation. Parents destroy daughters' IVF drugs to spare pregnant daughters' feelings, made national headlines. The security footage was played in court. The image of my mother methodically destroying $15,000 worth of medication while discussing her pregnant daughter's sensitivity went viral. Infertility support groups rallied. The hashtag Flushing Hope trended. Thousands of women shared their own stories of family cruelty around infertility. My parents were convicted. 2 years in federal prison for environmental crimes. 3 years for felony destruction of property. 5 years probation. $500,000 in fines. They lost their house paying legal fees. But the real justice came from an unexpected source. During the trial, a pharmaceutical company executive had been following the case. They were horrified by the footage of their medications being destroyed. They reached out with an offer. Full sponsorship for a complete IVF cycle. New protocol. Experimental treatments. All expenses covered. No one should lose their chance at parenthood because of cruelty, the CEO said in the press release. I was 39 by then. The odds were against me. But with the new protocol, the lack of stress from family interference, and Michael by my side, we tried one more time. The call came on a Wednesday. Beta HCG, 312. Strong. Doubling perfectly. 9 months later, I held my daughter. Perfect. Healthy. Mine. We named her Hope. My parents missed her birth. They were in federal prison. Brooke missed it too, apparently. Seeing my joy made her sensitive. She'd had her twins by then, boys who would never know their aunt. The day I brought Hope home, I drove past my parents' former house. New owners had already moved in. No trace of the people who'd tried to flush away my dreams. But I had no time for bitterness. Hope was crying for her afternoon feeding. My body, the one they deemed unworthy of motherhood, nourished her perfectly. Later, I did one final thing. I took every document, every screenshot, every piece of evidence from those horrible years, and I put them in a safety deposit box with a letter to Hope. Sweet girl, you were worth every needle, every tear, every battle. You were worth more than the $15,000 they destroyed. You were worth the wait. But if anyone ever tells you that your dreams matter less than someone else's comfort, remember, you come from a mother who refused to let cruelty win. Fight for yourself. Always. My parents were released early for good behavior. They tried to meet Hope, claimed grandparent rights. The judge laughed. Actually laughed. You destroyed her chance at parenthood to protect your other daughter's feelings, he said. You have no rights here. They sent letters. Begging. Apologizing. Claiming they'd been misunderstood. I had a lawyer respond once. My client is too sensitive to read your letters. Seeing them makes her feel guilty about your prison time. Her feelings matter more than your desperation. They never wrote again. Hope is 3 now. Curious, brilliant, everything I dreamed of in those dark years. She knows she has grandparents somewhere, but doesn't ask about them. She's too busy being loved by the family we chose. Michael's parents, our friends, the IVF support group that became our village. Sometimes I think about that night, kneeling on the bathroom floor, believing my last chance was gone. I had no idea what I would do next. No master plan. Just rage and grief and a desperate need for justice. They flushed my medications to protect my sister's feelings. In return, I flushed their freedom down the same drain. The difference? Hope rose from those waters. And she was worth everything.